Tyler, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about the rookies, right? Obviously, we saw the draft last month, and we knew the talent coming in, but when you get the spots, when you get the landing spots, it's always when things shake out the most. And the top rookie, obviously, for fantasy purposes, even more so than Travis Hunter, was Ashton Jeanty. I think that was the player that everybody was, where is he going to go? What team's going to go to? Landed with the Las Vegas Raiders under Pete Carroll. Chip Kelly are now there as a head coach and offensive coordinator. Couldn't have asked for a better landing spot at the number 6 pick there for Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah, I think Ashton Jeanty, obviously, like what you said, landed in a good spot. And I think some people are also they look at the Raiders and they say, like, this offense isn't going to be any good. And I think it's honestly has the chance to be a decent offense with Geno Smith there. I think it's going to be a lot better than what it has been in years past. You also have Brock Bowers. You have an underrated wide receiver in Jacoby Myers. They have Jack. I think it's Jack Besh. So they got some pieces, and I think Ashton Jeanty walks into a situation here where he's like the undisputed number 1 guy here who's going to get a ton of touches, and you have a Chip Kelly offense now that can be, once again, exciting. And you also have Pete Carroll, where we've seen him in the past use a guy. So in my opinion, like, I feel really good about Ashton Jeanty compared to other running backs coming out in the past, where it's just set up for him to succeed year one and just have a really good fantasy season, because the workload just looks like it's going to be really big for him this year heading into year one.
Yeah, obviously, like, Zamir White was trash last year. Guys, Dylan Labe never really got a chance to show his work, and they were rocking with Alexander Madison and a bunch of
McCormick at the end of the year.
They just didn't have any guys, and really didn't add anybody outside of Raheem Mostert for veteran presence. So Jeanty is going to have the full workload. And even at the receiver position, this was a Brock Bowers-led offense last year. Jacoby Myers had an excellent season, but even the passing game didn't see a whole lot of additions. And so Jeanty's going to get a lot of work and be the focal point of this offense. As a rookie, though, I do have concerns. And I think this is not concerns about him production-wise, because I think he's going to have a phenomenal rookie season. It's just expectation-wise from the fantasy community in year one. We typically do this with rookies where we're looking for 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns and 50 catches out the backfield. And it's like, for rookies, they have to come in and know passing protection. They got to know assignments, got to be able to improve that they can actually perform at an NFL level as a rookie. So I think last year it was Marv. The year before that it was Bijan. It's like every year these rookies tend to go in like the first round. So I have a little bit of concern about Ashton Jeanty, who I profile as probably like a 12 to 1,300 yard back, somewhere in the 8 touchdown range with this Raiders offense, somewhere around 30 to 40 catches. And I think that's a really damn good season for a rookie running back. I just don't know if that's first round material,
No, I understand. I think that this is what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to predict what's going to happen. All right. I think that Ashton Jeanty will finish. Like, if you go back over the past 10 years and look at running backs drafted inside the top 12, like, it's 100% hit rate that these guys are RB1s their first season. But what happens a lot of time is they're more like RB6, 7, 8, like in that range. They're more of like a mid to back end RB1. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with Ashton Jeanty. He's going to get pushed up the board. Like, you know what's going to happen. People are just going to be like, man, I just really want Ashton Jeanty. And that's fine. Like, I do think he's going to be a workhorse running back. And production is one of the best predictive stats or whatever you want to look at for running backs heading into the season. So he's going to have pretty good fantasy success just because of his production. But he's going to get pushed up the board. He's right now a back end first round pick, but he's slowly going to become a mid first round pick. And do I think that he's fine there? Honestly, it's not bad, but I just think that there's a couple other guys that I probably would rather go in that range. But I still think that he'll have a successful fantasy season. But do I think he's going to be like RB1, top 3? Probably not. But I think he'll be fine. A fine pick if you really want to get Ashton Jeanty.
I think he's a great floor pick. Like, if you're just looking for a young running back that can come in and you want to have a hit, like you said, you're not having to worry about the older running backs. So there's a lot of old running backs at the top right now. So you don't have to worry about old running backs. I think Jeanty will be fine. Like I said, I think there's a point where we're talking about him potentially as like a top 3 running back candidate. But there's a lot of good running backs in the league right now. So I think that's where I probably have my biggest concern. I think you're also taking him over a lot of really good receivers, especially in your half point and full point PPR leagues. So I think in standard leagues, Jeanty's probably going to have a really nice floor, probably a top 12 to 15 type pick. I think it's worth that. But I think in your half point PPR and your PPR leagues, he's got to prove that he can pass catch at a higher level. And in this Pete Carroll offense, I mean, beast mode, we kind of know that's like the comp that's been around too for him is, being able to shed tackles the way he does. Marshawn was a great running back, and I don't think he had too many 1,500-yard plus seasons. So I think even under Pete Carroll, I know Chip Kelly loves to run the football. I have mild concerns there. We'll see how it plays out, and we'll see where ADP lands. So I think you talked about it. That's going to be the big differentiator between all of this. What about the receivers, Tyler? We had 2 receivers taken in the top 10, Travis Hunter and Tetairoa McMillan. And obviously, let's go with Travis Hunter first, who there was like, is he going to play DB? Is he going to play receiver first? He's already been taking reps in, OTAs right now at receiver. Yeah. Liam Cohen has said we're going to get him up to speed at receiver first, cornerback a little bit later in the summer. What were your thoughts when Travis Hunter went to the Jags, who already have a phenomenal receiver in Brian Thomas?
I was pretty happy about this one. And the reason being is I do think that, like, I don't break down film at a high rate. I let the professionals do that. And all the professionals that do that, Steve Smith, I love the Dynasty Nerds. They're pretty accurate about all of their stuff. All of them think that Travis Hunter can be like an alpha, like elite tier wide receiver. And even a lot of the analytics people think the same thing. So for me personally, like I'm all in on Travis Hunter. I'm all in kind of on this Jags offense going forward. I think the biggest question mark is kind of Liam Cohen, how he is as a head coach, because it's a lot different. We've seen a lot of offense coordinators who are very good as OCs. Yeah, Duval. We've seen a lot of good OCs become head coaches, and they're not a good fit at being a head coach. So I think it comes down to kind of like what Liam Cohen does as a head coach. But I believe in the offense, what he's done at Tampa Bay. I think that this offense can be very good. So I'm really interested in Travis Hunter, especially for where he's currently going. Now, he's another guy that you're going to see the rookies move up a lot, especially as we get closer to the season and all the training camp news comes out. And with him in particular, just because people are still a little bit worried, is he going to play, cornerback? Is he going to play wide receiver? Like, I think as the season progresses, off-season training camp progresses, we're going to see him playing wide receiver, and he's going to shoot up the board. But I really like him. And even Tetairoa McMillan, like I like where he's currently going as well. Like he's a guy that I really like coming out to, very productive, young breakout age, going to a situation where he's really the undisputed number 1 wide receiver for a guy that we saw last year, and Bryce Young have a really good, I don't want to say really good, but much better than what he was early on the season, finally relaxed and was productive down the stretch. So, and another coach, offense coordinator that I believe in, Dave Canales too there. So I think both of them right now are very good values. The only, like with Ashton Jeanty, you're going to have that hype. They're going to get really pushed up the boards. But right now they're going kind of like in the 4th, 5th round, which I'm fine with. I'll take them there. I like that.
I think for rookie receivers, it's tough. But I think they're going to also get pushed up because of what the receivers did last year. Like when you look at Brian Thomas, look at Malik Neighbors, you look at Lab McConkey, like you see what the rookies did last year, and everybody's going to want some of that, Yeah. And with Travis Hunter, I think the one issue that I have is that you got a Brian Thomas on your team, a guy who is a mega alpha receiver, him damn self, and he's going to command a lot more work from Trevor Lawrence this year, who I think is going to be. I mean, we say this every year about Trevor, but it's like it's time for Trevor to take that lead.
It's like now or never kind of.
Yeah, and when I think about Travis Hunter, Tyler, it's one of those things where I think he will have some crazy weeks. I think there's going to be some big weeks in his future, but I also see some weeks where he's going to have some duds. He reminds me a lot of like an Odell Beckham, not just play style, but I think output-wise, where I think in New York, there was weeks where we would see him go for like 150 and 3 TDs, and then there's other weeks where he's 3 catches for 40 yards. And I think we'll see a lot of that with Travis Hunter, who doesn't need to be the guy because they have another guy on their team.
Yeah.
And so with Liam Cohen, obviously we saw what he was doing with Godwin, with Mike Evans, what he did with the Rams, with Cooper Kupp. And, he's had some really strong receiving cores. And I think getting him another set of strong receivers, I don't see any issues with Liam Cohen, even as a head coach. And we talked about failed head coaches like Chip Kelly. We just talked about it. There are some times where that happens.
Yeah.
But when you have an elite quarterback, elite receivers, I can see this playing out very well for the Jags. And as far as Tet McMillan, Tet McMillan is a player that he doesn't profile to me as like a guy like everybody gives him the Drake London comp. I think he's a tier below that. And I don't think that's anything wrong, but I think where he's going in drafts right now, he stands to be probably a steal where he's at right now in the wide receiver 40 type range. I think that he's more of a wide receiver 3, just based off the fact he'll be the number 1 for Carolina. It's either him or Xavier Legette. Probably be McMillan on most weeks. So I love what they did with the pick there. I'm not as excited about McMillan as I am Travis Hunter because I think Hunter's upside on a weekly basis, tradability, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes that matters. The star power is there, but I think McMillan will be an instant contributor in fantasy. Yeah. I think there's value with having players like that.
Well, one other thing that I'll say about Travis Hunter too is that you do have Brian Thomas Jr. there, and this can be my hot take. All right, this can be my hot take. I think that Travis Hunter is going to be the one there. I think next year we're going to look at this situation, and it's going to be Travis Hunter is the number 1 wide receiver, and Brian Thomas is
this year or next year.
I think it's going to happen as the season progresses, and Travis Hunter because the one thing Travis Hunter you have to consider too is like the dude was playing both sides, so he's never fully invested into one side. So I think this team, you look at everything. There's no player in this NFL draft that has more draft capital already poured into him than Travis Hunter, because the team gave up so much to move up to get him. So there's already so much, and they're already saying like that's going to be our full-time wide receiver. I think like this is a true guy who's going to be one of the very best wide receivers in the NFL in the next couple of years. I think he's going to overtake Brian Thomas. Instead of Brian Thomas being the number 1, it's going to be, all right, Travis Hunter's the number 1. And then Brian Thomas Jr. is he's like the 1B. It's going to be one of those situations. And last thing I'll say too is they got rid of all their other guys there. You got rid of Evan Ingram. You got rid of Christian Kirk. You have Brenton Strange there, but it's really open for these 2 guys to just have everything kind of funneled through them, where both of them can coexist. As long as Trevor Lawrence has kind of taken that step, and as long as obviously he's still rookie, we need to see him in the NFL. But if Travis Hunter can take the step that everybody thinks he can and be, one of these really good wide receivers, like this offense, these 2 guys can coexist and have really good fantasy weeks on, weekly basis.
Yeah. 1A, 1B, I think is definitely going to be it probably next year. I think this year there'll be some kind of learning curve, especially if he does play both sides, which I think the anticipation is that he's going to be playing both sides at times for the Jags team. So a lot in store. And obviously, that backfield's it's got a lot of running backs there right now. So we'll see how that all shakes out.
Who do you think is going to be the guy?
I think it's ETN. I think it's still ETN.
Yeah, I want ETN or Bayshall too, and those are the 2 guys I'd prefer.
I think that's one of them dynasty things. And Tyler, that's really a good point to talk about. We talked about ADP